All right, we are rolling. I'm curious right now. I'm looking to see if I can see the notification that the channel is going live on my YouTube account because I'm
You should
subscribed.
be able to. Yeah, that's how it works.
I don't see anything.
So
Let me see.
everyone, there's no one tuning in just yet. We're still at 0 viewers, but this notification that we're live should go out pretty fast.
Oh man, I'm geeking out right now. Oh, new experiences. Yay.
I know this is what we need. It's good for your health. It's good for productivity. You know, it gets you excited for more opportunities like this. Because once you get a taste of what it's like to stream and have an audience of people who watch it, then you want to do it more. You want to get more actively involved in it and be a more active participant. So,
And
yeah,
that's something that I'm shooting to do too. I mean, like when I tuned into the last live stream that you and Kevin did, you named out to my YouTube channel, which was super cool.
Yeah,
Hey,
we got one person.
I think I recognize that name. Is that the name of the guy who was clowning on you and Kevin that last time, or is that somebody else?
I'm not too sure. No, I think the last guy was Danger Boy.
Danger Boy, right?
Danger Boy. Okay. Yeah, and I think he was just doing it in good spirits. I'm not too sure if he was if he meant that in any sort of bad way, because he's like a regular. I guess he's like a follower that comes to the channel and maybe likes to mess around with the boys. But hey, man, it's good to see you. So I'm gonna wait for a few more people to come in before we
nobody on here knows me yet, so I think introductions are in order.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was confusing you with some other person who we just discussed.
Yeah, you're good. So, I'm still waiting for a few more people to come into the chat so I could properly introduce you and just get people familiar with your channel, your content. What will be coming from your channel anyway?
Because content, because at the moment, what content is currently on my channel isn't. I mean, I've got those first few parts of my Ratchet Let's Play, but as soon as I start that over, those things that are uploaded right now are going to go private, so I can restart it and do it right, and I can fill people in on what the whole that thing is. And of course, there is the main thing that we are here for, which is to talk about the Jack rumors. But yeah.
Right, the Jack rumors, which are fairly consistent at this point, which is why I did a video on it, because I don't really like to do rumor videos. When there's a popular rumor that's out, it has to be really substantial before I actually act on it and take it serious. I mean, I'm from a time where, the rumor mill was running like a waterfall, so for me, I'm so used to rumors coming out like new Jack, new this, new that. But unless there's something really substantial for me to hang on to, I won't talk about it because I don't want it to become redundant in just a few weeks after the news spills out. So the funny thing about the Jack rumor is that there seems to be a lot of changes to it. Like it goes from being announced by an insider as being conducted by Mark Cerny to then that same insider being like, oh well, I don't really know if Mark Cerny's working on Jack right now. So
the fact he flip-flops a little bit kind of puts question to the credibility.
Yeah, his credibility is kind of on the wayside right now. I don't know how much stock to take into him, and I think his name is Morse Law is Dead or something. You've seen his YouTube channel, I think, but that's him, and I'm sure he has some credibility, but I'm not going to let him be the end-all be-all for the Jack rumors. So if he says, oh yeah, well it's not Jack, I'm not going to take it like 100% faithful that his word is, the word of God, because there are still rumors currently flowing out that Jack and Daxter is going to be seen and announced properly for PS5 within like another month or two. So until I get like official confirmation that, hey, no, this isn't happening, I'm still going to keep my hopes up pretty high, because every month or so there seems to be a new rumor coming out for Jack. And
right,
yeah, it's pretty consistent right now.
The thing we got to consider, though, when it comes to Jack is that there have been rumors upon rumors about Jack making resurgences for years, and they've never come true. And you and I have had multiple moments where we were like, dude, this is finally happening. And then it amounted to nothing. So
That's very true.
also,
Yeah.
this could very likely be another disappointment. So what I want to ask is, what makes this one different from all the others?
So this latest one that came out, I think it was propelled by a news article on Google. So I'm part of many Jack and Daxter fan groups. And a lot of them are very hopeful, maybe to an extreme, but I take stock into it. So I have to look into it first before I write it off. Now, this insider, this new guy who's on Twitter, he runs an account that seems to be sort of like, at first I thought it was a parody account. I was like, oh, this is a little silly. But then I looked a little deeper into it, and as it turns out, this guy actually accurately predicted a few things that have been currently revealed to us, such as the Batman reveal. I think he predicted the release date or something like that. So it seems like it's probably a guy who is, kind of taking the piss, but he's also revealing things that are actually true and have solidity to it. So yeah, if this turns out to be true and his word of mouth is the correct, I give him props because it's really funny. I like the the identity of him being Tony Stark on Twitter. It's really funny. But I hope it turns out to be true. So yeah, his current stance on it is that there's going to be a reveal next month. So in September, and we're also going to get a new Sony event that's going to talk about and show off more games for PS5, like the big heavy hitters that are gonna like really sell the console for everyone.
Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, anyone?
Oh yeah, for sure. They're definitely gonna show off Rift Apart again, and we're gonna hopefully see, more gameplay with who.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I almost said her name. It got spoiled, but I don't really want to spoil it for everyone else who doesn't want to be spoiled. We both know what her name is, but
and
I'm
it's
not going to.
disappointing because honestly, it's such a derivative, and it makes it seem a lot more like she's just going to be a replacement for Ratchet, which I don't want that. I like her to be her own character that doesn't have to rely on past legacies, but whatever. But anyway, friggin'. So the rumor for Jack is that it's going to be a remake. And
Yes.
there are ups and downs for that. I mean, for one, I would love to see Jack and Daxter the Precursor Legacy remade for the PS5 with the modern technology, because imagine the scale of the levels and how detailed that could be. Like, I know that in a really specific thing that I would love to see is, like, you know how in Precursor Legacy you're on top of Golmai Citadel and you look back and you can see like everywhere that you came from. You can see the rest of the game, basically.
Yeah.
But then, as I have recently discovered, exploiting the debug codes, and I'm sure is pretty obvious to other people, if you actually go over there from the top of the Citadel, like flying over in debug mode, you can see that those aren't the actual locations. They're just basically cardboard cutouts to represent them. Because, dude, asking the PlayStation 2 to render the whole entire game all at once, there's no way that machine could do that. But honestly, I would love to see if they could actually try something like that with the PS5. Like, just knowing that what you're seeing is the actual level and not just some 2D representation, that would be nice.
That would be really nice. Yeah. They did what they could on PS2, despite the hardware limitations. I think that they really nailed it. They really pulled off at making the world of Jack and Daxter always feel like it was, realistic. Like, it always felt like, even though those areas you couldn't go to, but you could just faintly see in the backgrounds, were traversable areas. Like, in your own imagination, you could picture those areas being traversable because, well, they are once you actually go to them, but the map, of course, wouldn't load it won't load in debug because it can't load, it's not GTA 5. It can't load the entire world on PS2, especially. GTA 5 is very impressive too for what it's able to do on PS3. A lot of people forget sometimes that game was made on PS3 because of how much it keeps getting, repurposed for a new console. So it's on PS4 now. It's coming to PS5. Rockstar just milking it for all it's worth.
I remember we were watching the PlayStation event at the same time, and the fact that they made this big deal about GTA 5 coming to PS5, I was literally just like, really? We're doing this again? This is a big deal? Come on, man. We might as well.
I feel like that wasn't really necessary to show at a big reveal event, but because that's immediately going to be a little off-putting. You're like, oh no, like, why are they showing a game from literally like 2 generations ago now?
Everybody already
has already been ported to a next-gen console.
I've got this game shelf right freaking now, and I haven't even played it yet.
And for a second, it went off in my head. I'm like, imagine if this whole event was just them showing games that came out on previous generations for PS5. So the next thing they show is like The Last of Us and then the Uncharted collection. And
PS5, the second rendition of the Uncharted direction, rendering Nathan Drake in even more pixels.
And the crazy thing is, too, a lot of people would most likely buy it. But that wouldn't be enough to sell. I'd probably buy it. Oh, me too. I mean, making a game look even better and have more graphical and hardware prowess is always a good thing, but it's just not enough to sell a console. People, they want new experiences. They want new games. Bringing back a classic, like a game that's already been developed for a new console isn't a bad idea. But you also have to flesh it out with other titles too that are fresh and new, that are, either original, sequels. I'll give a pass to remakes because oftentimes remakes and reimaginings can be like a whole new experience all on its own. They could feel like a fresh new take on something that's kind of old. So, for example, Medieval got a remake recently.
Crash Bandicoot: The Insane Trilogy, as well as the Spyro Reignited.
There you go.
There are some people that complain about them, but I mean, I thought they were pretty neat. I don't know.
Hey, I think they're great. I don't think there's any other way they could have realistically brought those games back into the limelight. I think that was the best way for them as a company, as a business, to test the waters and make sure that, okay, for the future, is this still going to be profitable? If we bring these... Yeah, and look how it turned out. Like,
Insane Trilogy, freaking sales were gangbusters, man. It was
for sure.
And I'm happy to have seen it, honestly. There's been some critics who didn't like the fuzzy, realistic look of Crash in it, and I get it, but I personally liked the way that everything looked. It was shiny and new and polished, and I'm a sucker for it.
Me too. I have no complaints with it. I think that for the most part, they really did justice to those games, and it resulted in the best thing that any fan could have ever wanted, which is the proper continuation of the franchise. Now we've got Crash 4, Crash Bandicoot 4, it's about time, and it's going to, from the looks of it, be the title that all fans wanted from a new Crash game. It has all the mechanics of the originals and some new ones that were in the later titles, but are kind of mixed and mashed together. And that's something really impressive to see. There seems to be a lot of dedication from the development team too. I watched a few of the behind the scenes videos with the developers just talking about the game, and they're really proud of their work on the Crash games. You could tell that, well, this game in particular, I think this is their first Crash game, but you could tell that they love what they're doing right now for the series.
This Crash 4, this is going to be Toys for Bob, right?
Yeah, so Toys for Bob, they developed the Spyro Reignited trilogy, not
Yes, I'm
the
aware of
Insane
this.
trilogy. Yeah, so I think the Insane trilogy was developed by Vicarious Visions, and I guess they weren't available to make the fourth game, so they
Gonna
passed
be
it
my
off
next
to Toys for
question.
Bob.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question of why not have Vicarious Visions do it?
Yeah, why not have Vicarious Visions do it? I suppose that like with any developer, they've probably got other projects under their wing right now, and so maybe it was just a matter of like, hey, we can't really develop this game. Like they probably wanted this game to be put into development pretty soon after Insane Trilogy was such a big hit, and so yeah, Toys for Bob most likely had more of the development time to make the game and weren't too busy. I'm sure they probably leaped on it right after Spyro.
Of course, with the fact that this game is titled Crash 4, there are definitely some implications for the game that we previously considered as Crash 4 that was oft maligned, as well as everything that followed it. And I know that not every Crash game that that was released after Crash 3 was a lightning strike like the original trilogy was, but there is the one that is beloved by fans.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, this is a segue to move into addressing the particular game that Born of the Blood here is mentioning. Why does nobody talk about Crash to Insanity, right? That game is... I mean, I haven't played it myself, but I mean, I've seen enough of the reviews of it to get the deal with it, of the wacky, zany antics and the comedic writing in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, would we... Is that decanonized? I mean, I'm just asking that out of words, English.
Right.
I'm just asking that out of obligation. But obviously,
Right.
you and I have seen the interview of the developers kind of sort of addressing that. What was that article talking about how all Crash Bandicoot games are canon now?
Yeah, so I think the way that they decided to basically realign the series was to set it at a point in time where most of the hardcore fans would want the series to be continued. I don't think people would want it to be continued from Mind Over Mutant, because Mind Over Mutant, it's not a terrible game by any stretch of the imagination, but it is one of the weaker titles in the series, and I think that's kind of where it started to go off the rails. I love Titans. Titans is a great Crash game to me. I was just playing it like nonstop earlier. I think it's one of the most fun post Naughty Dog Crash games that you could play, along with Twinsanity, which is also really fun, although it's a bit more broken and rushed, but that doesn't take away from the experience. It's still, if you could still appreciate it for what it is, it's a very fun game with a lot of great humor, and it works very well. But basically, back to the point of what the developers are trying to do here, I think it's to acknowledge the existence of all the games that came out after Team Racing, but also kind of start fresh from a point in the series where most people would want to see a continuation of, who maybe weren't too happy with the direction that Crash Bandicoot games took afterwards. And I don't think that necessarily decanonizes what's going to come afterwards, but to me, this title seems like it could almost be a midquel, like a game that takes place in the middle of the timeline between, maybe after Team Racing, if that's even, canon.
Well,
After
the official statement is that it picks up directly after Crash 3. So
Right. Yeah. And as we both know, I mean, Crash 3 kind of ends on a sort of ambiguous note. Uka Uka and Cortex and I think Engine are kind of like stuck in time. They're like in the middle of nowhere. So
how that out of that?
There is a lot to continue from that point on and explain that the Wrath of Cortex didn't really touch on. As it stands, I don't think the Wrath of Cortex really feels like a direct continuation of those games, or that game in particular. So to me, this still works without writing off the Wrath of Cortex. I think that if they want to include those games and the canon that's established in them in future titles, they totally can. But this way of approaching it is really fan servicey. It's really appropriate for what they're trying to do here, especially since, you know, it's a good thing to kind of reset Crash back to like what the most critically acclaimed and just well-known games are, and make a direct sequel to it that is also respectful to the other titles that came after it too.
And strategically, that decision does make the most sense, because what's the alternative? Keep remaking the rest of the series? Remake Wrath of Cortex? Remake Twinsanity?
Yeah, you can't do that, because it would be a waste of assets to create an original game. And this is such a better idea. You know, they didn't necessarily have to call it Crash 4, but I don't think there's any harm in it, because the remade trilogy kind of, you know, sets things back in motion for Crash. You know, so why not make a game that directly follows up the last thing in people's minds about Crash, which would be the remade trilogy? You go right from there, a sequel that spawns directly from that, and it just, you know, takes everybody back in. It's really gripping.
I honestly would... I haven't played the game, but again, I know how critically acclaimed it is, and how, despite the kind of bad reputation of the Crash games post Naughty Dog, Twinsanity is beloved. And I would love to see it get some sort of acknowledgement in the modern era right now. Like, I don't know about a remake or a port, maybe not. Wait, hold on, no. I don't know about a remake, but maybe like a port is what I was trying to say.
You're good.
Something that keeps it within the canon, and within the direct canon. I mean, like, there's the theory about how, like, each Crash game is in, like, a different universe. Twinsanity, oh, I'm hurt. This person doesn't like Twinsanity. Hello, Fred. I think
Okay, that's my boy Fred.
Yeah, I think I recognize that.
He likes that game too, but me and him both know that. Yeah, you've heard of Fred before. He's one of my best friends. I love him so much, but his opinions, he won't hide the fact that game is not a, you know, perfect piece of Crash entertainment. You know, it has a numerous amount of bugs and issues, and it's pretty much incomplete. But for what it is, the package that you could take away from it, it's not a unplayable game. It's just not a complete game. It's not what that game could have been had it had, you know, a little bit more development time put into it and wasn't rushed out on the market. So there's a deep appreciation people have for Twinsanity, but the main source of that appreciation is all of the charm, all of the, you know, quirkiness that was put into it. It's mainly that.
I honestly think that games that are incomplete and buggy, in some ways it kind of I don't know, there's a charm to that too. It's fun to kind of play around with the words. It's kind of fun to exploit some of the more interesting bugs, I suppose you could say. Like, I know with Jak 3, it's really easy to break that game in half, and I have a hell of a fun time doing it.
Yeah,
I think one of my favorite things to do in Jak 3 is if you do the light power up, right? If you're in light Jak form and you slow down time and you're in the city or out in the wasteland, say you're behind one of the buggies or behind a hover car, you get out the wave concussor and just spam that thing, not even charge it up, just spam the low powered attack over and over again until the slowdown effect stops, and that thing will launch all the way, like, out of the level, at least in the case of the zoomer. Like, it'll phase out of existence if you do that to the zoomer. And if you do it to one of the buggies out in the wasteland, it goes all the way on the other side of the map. And I'm not gonna lie, that's how I complete the jump challenge on the Wasteland to get those precursor orbs. I totally cheese it. And honestly, time the buggy falls and crashes and gets destroyed and it fails the challenge, so I have to try it a few times. But it's so fun to do, man. I don't even care if I fail it.
Yeah, I totally hear that. Man, yeah, there's taking advantage of video games that have bugs or have, loose wiring, let's just say, is really fun. But preferably, most gamers would rather play a game that's complete, that doesn't have any real noticeable, flaws that could deduct points from the experience or just take you out of it. In Jak 3's case, it's totally fine. There's just a lot of ways that you could take advantage of it for experienced players, for players who know about the many ways. Like, you have to dig a little deep to basically hijack Jak 3. No pun intended. You gotta dig a little deep. You gotta know about the game.
But once you discover those little quirks, those little clever word, I don't know.
You're good.
It's fun to do. It's really just, it's a blast. I love Jak 3. I love it for that reason. I love dicking around the sandbox after I complete it. I think that's another example of the bugginess and incomplete state of a game kind of adding to its charm and fun factor is Devil May Cry 4, because that's a shamelessly incomplete game. But there are some little quirks that comes with it being incomplete that have kind of been worked into game mechanics. I've heard people talking about this, and I'm in the process of playing Devil May Cry 4 myself, but I'm not brushed up on like every single little bug that's like worked into a mechanic in future games. But I know about the inertia thing. I know about Devil Trigger Distortion, which, of course, I'm probably going to have to fill you in on this.
Yeah, because my experience with the DMC games is it's on and off. It really is. I am not a hardcore DMC player, but I'm definitely a big time cherisher of those games.
Right.
Even the weakest title, DMC 2, I think that there's a lot to take away from it.
I don't even skip DMC 2. I mean, yeah, it's piss easy, and in a what's the word? I am failing with my English right now. In an objective sense, it does kind of suck, but at the same time, I still enjoy it in a way. And
yeah, there's a lot of guilty pleasures for people. I think that objectively, it's hard to say like when a game is truly bad. There are bad games that are just, the majority would play them and be like, "Oh, this is not fun. This is a piece of crap."
But he doesn't make that up defend DMC too. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's objectively bad, but
it is objectively
like going back and playing it.
It's a guilty pleasure.
I like going back and playing it just to kind of laugh at how bad it is. There's that one video that's on YouTube that's titled "Real Video Gamers Don't Skip Devil May Cry 2," and it's basically just a compilation of moments of Dante just casually strolling along while the demons fail to slice him in half. All the moments of not doing nothing but blasting away at the enemies, keeping them in the air, who are offering absolutely no resistance. It's fun in that it's funny how broken it is. And I actually ironically and the voice acting. Arius, man. Some of the moments with Arius are so freaking memorable, especially when he starts losing his mind at the end. Yeah. And I unironically love the soundtrack of DMC 2. I think it kicks so much ass, and that's probably the Devil May Cry soundtrack I go back to the most. But yeah. Anyway, Devil May Cry 4. There are two major things that people don't really know if they're bugs or intentional mechanics, but people who play it work them into mechanics. There's one thing called inertia, in which when you're doing air combos, the character will kind of start to float away without input, and that can kind of be manipulated in a way to work it into your combos to, for more high-level play, it can be taken advantage of and manipulated to the player's advantage. And I've heard people go both ways on whether or not that was something that's actually intended, but that's something that people make use of. And there's also double trigger distortion, where there's this one melee weapon which is a pair of gauntlets, and there's an uppercut move, right? And excuse my camera's flashing, it does that from time to time. But there's this one uppercut move, it's called Real Impact. And it hits multiple times, each time is stronger than the last, like multiple times in succession in the same uppercut, right? And what you can do is, if you enter double trigger mode at the last second on the last hit, it'll hit twice, and it'll melt the shit out of the health bar. And it's totally satisfying to pull something like that off. I've never pulled it off, but I've seen people pull it off, and damn, I want to be that good.
I know. I always pick the hardest option whenever I play video games. I don't like my handheld when I'm playing video games. I think to myself, you know, man, I played Jak 2 as a kid. I beat Jak 2. All right? There should be no excuse right now why I can't pick the hardest difficulty mode on a game. If I played Jak 2 when I was like 6 or 7 years old and still was able to do a full run through it, even though I got, you know, brutally killed by Crimson Guards and all the other vicious creatures of that game many times. So I always pick the hardest difficulty mode. Right now I'm playing Crash of the Titans, which is gold, by the way. I think that really that is the most standout Crash game besides Twinsanity. But again, for a lot of people, Twinsanity, the charm of it is what really sells them the game, not the actual game itself. But Titans is very fun. Very fun. It's just a different format for Crash. If you look at it like it's a standalone title and disconnect it from the original games and their playstyle, you'll have a blast with it, especially if you love hack and slash games. It's basically like a hack and slash platformer. It's really great. Some people have even gone as far to say like, oh, it's a God of War clone, but it's nothing like God of War. It's got platforming. It's got like really fun level design. It's got great scenery too. It's not perfect by any stretch, but it's really fun and really worth playing. I can't really say the same for Mind of a Mutant, but I'm going to give that one a chance again pretty soon. I didn't like it when I was younger, but I will give it another try just to give it a fair opinion, a fair review. And yeah, so that game is kicking my ass, by the way. Titans, on hard mode, it's nothing to play around with.
Crash is known for being hard, so hey, more good on you, I guess. And we've got a question here that I kind of want to address because I'd like to talk about this game a little bit. No, I haven't played Dark Souls. I do intend to. I own all 3 of the games right now. They're sitting on my shelf over there right now. I just haven't gotten to them yet. I'm still in the process of playing the Devil May Cry games, and alongside with the Devil May Cry games, I've also started with the God of War games and the Assassin's Creed games. That's what I'm playing right now. At the moment, I'm going through my easy mode playthrough of Devil May Cry 4, or so I guess I should say my human mode playthrough, because I've done every difficulty level up to Dante Must Die. After finishing Dante Must Die, I figure I might as well go back to normal mode and just do the cleanup duty before going on the Heaven and Hell and Hell modes. So yeah, that's what I'm currently in the middle of playing. Assassin's Creed I just finished the first one, and I finished the 3rd God of War game recently as well. So Dark Souls, I think, is kind of within that same sort of vein, so I'm probably going to be getting around to that very soon, but I'm going to be starting with Demon Souls, at least. But I'm really looking forward to playing Dark Souls, because we all know how infamous it is for its difficulty, and I'll be severely disappointed if I'm not punished the second that I spawn into that game. If I don't warp in, and my ass isn't torn... Wait, no. Fuck. If I don't warp in... Wait, no. If I warp in and my ass isn't torn in half immediately, I'm going to demand a refund.
Yeah, you want what that game promises. You want to know that game is going to deliver the heat and pack a punch. And I can't say from experience because I have yet to play those games. I want to. It's on my list, but I have not touched them, and I'm sure it's going to whip my butt because if Titans is giving me a run for my money, I know that the Dark Souls games are definitely going to be, like so much effort for me to put into a video game. But hey, I could do it.
I tell you what, though, overcoming a tough as nails gaming challenge, it's a satisfying feeling. I think the most challenging thing that I have ever completed in a game was Dante Must Die mode on the first Devil May Cry. That thing kicks your ass so hard. It is so unforgiving. But especially the last two bosses, like, if anybody here is a fan of the Devil May Cry series, like I think Born of the Blood and Carved and Warped both are, they know exactly what I'm talking about. The Nightmare Chamber is lives up to the name. I'll say that much. It's like the last two bosses are complete and utter bullet hell, and the slightest of projectile will melt your health down to nearly nothing, and it is a freaking brutal experience. But man, conquering those mountains and hearing that Dante Must Die level exclusive ending music is so freaking satisfying, and I felt so proud of myself when I finally accomplished it. And honestly, neither Devil May Cry 2 or 3 gave me that same sense of accomplishment as Devil May Cry 1 did for completing the final difficulty level. Because 2 and 3 don't punish you as harshly, because 1 runs on the golden orbs, which are a life system, and 2 and 3 both ditched that. So you still die a lot in them, but it's not as much of a punishment. So yeah, I feel like as a result of that, 1 still remains as the biggest accomplishment when you would complete it on the difficulty.
Right. I'd say so too. I think that 1 is iconic for that very reason. It's the first one that really introduced that whole concept, and gave you that, quest to work towards. The other games just sort of replicate it and do what that game set out to do. And yeah, now I don't have the popular opinion on this, but for me, my favorite, and to be fair, I have not played Devil May Cry 5 yet, but my favorite game in the series, and I think it's your favorite game too, but I could be wrong. DMC3 might be your favorite now. Is still the remake.
DMC3 is my favorite.
Is it your favorite?
So far, it is. I have yet to play Devil May Cry 5 because, as I said before, I'm still in the middle of completing all the difficulty levels on 4. But I anticipate that when I get to Devil May Cry 5, it will become my favorite. But at the moment, DMC3 still holds that crown because I haven't played 5 yet.
Right. For me, it was DMC3. Then when I played the remake, that took over.
People are gonna castrate you for that opinion.
Yeah, I know, but I'm ready for it. Hey, man, I'm rocking with Gangsta Dante from the DMC remake. I like him. He's a pretty great guy. We drink on the weekend. We're all getting a bunch of Heinekens and going to the Nephilim strip clubs or whatever. But anyway, yeah, on a real note though.
People are gonna start in the chat saying "fuck you."
Yeah, it is a good game though, on all of its own merits.
Yeah, I ironically love the reboot too. I think that it's actually a fantastic game. All the little quirks in writing and stuff like that people give it a hard time for are what I love it for. I love the stupid moments. I think they're fucking hilarious. I like how streamlined it is. The reboot was my introduction to the series. Like, when I first played it, I had no idea that it was a reboot. I just thought that it was an original game, and I fucking loved it. Of course, it appealed to me because at the time of 2013, Nick was emo Nick, and I wanted to play an edgelord game that was as much as much of an edgelord as I was, but back on it now, I think it's still a good game. I like how streamlined it is. I like how much the combat flows, in my opinion at least. And I have memories of stringing together some pretty kick-ass combos while playing that game.
Yeah. See, to me, DMC, the remake, has the most polished gameplay in the series up to that point. I'm sure DMC 5 just wipes the floor with it, but up to that point, and for my introduction to it, definitely the most polished and streamlined gameplay in the series. Also, I feel like it's the most accessible. Well, it was the most accessible. Again, I feel like, even though I haven't played it yet,
was it the most successful?
Huh?
Was it the most successful? I said
accessible. Accessible to like casual gamers. Yeah. Like, it's not a... See, the thing is with the other DMC games is that they kind of cast an image of being like hardcore games for hardcore gamers. Like, don't pick this game up unless you want to get your ass whooped and want to learn a bunch of mechanics that are going to be hard to maneuver and master. For the remake, I feel like they opened it up to people who maybe were intimidated by playing the other DMC games and said, okay, look, this one's going to be a lot simpler. The movesets are going to be more streamlined, and you're going to be able to just jump right into it and know what you're doing. You know, and that was great for me because at the time, like, I was still getting used to games that were getting progressively more and more difficult and more complicated. So it was just a perfect introduction into that for me. I felt like really comfortable with that being my first Devil May Cry game, which then made me go like, hey, I want to see what the other games are like.
I think that was the intention with DMC4 too, though, because if you've played it, I don't know if you've actually... I completely forgot previously in the chat. Have you played Devil May Cry 4?
I have not played Devil May Cry 4.
Okay,
no.
You haven't played Devil May Cry 4.
Only the first three and the remake.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that a base level introduction for beginning players was the intention with Nero. Because when you pick up Nero, he's a lot more straightforward. He's only got his Red Queen sword and his gun, the Blue Rose, and he's only got those for the entirety of the game. So he's a lot simpler to play with than Dante is. And also, Devil May Cry 4, I feel, is significantly easier while you're playing as Nero. And of course, when you get Dante, it starts ramping shit up. But I think that 4 was also meant to be a good entry-level introduction and to be accessible to new players because Nero was so accessible.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I agree with that too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we both know that DMC4 wasn't the most successful game in the series. I think that that's where it started to lose steam, and that's most likely why they went ahead and said, okay, we should probably think about, like, if we're going to make a new game, rebranding this and making it something that appeals to a certain demographic, a certain target demographic, which was, you know,
Yep.
me, who were total edgelords, looked and dressed, or at least attempted to look and dress just like Dante does in the game, you know, and we might not have acted particularly like Dante. Like, we weren't as, you know, like cold-hearted douchebags as he is in that game, at least for the first part of it anyway. But
More of the blood here is making
the aesthetic was definitely appealing.
More of the blood here is making a good comment here, which is absolutely true. DMC4 was forced to be released a year before they were done, so corners had to be cut, and that resulted in Dante going backwards through the game through Nero's levels instead of having his own levels. So that's probably the most obvious example of the drawbacks of that.
Yeah, that's the reason. I feel like that's the main reason why most games fall flat on their face when they're not given enough time to flourish in development. Like, that will always hinder the final experience. You know, case in point is SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, the remake that just came out. That game was also rushed and put on a time limit. They wanted to make that for a whole nother year. They wanted it to come out next year, and I think that the publisher was like, no, it has to coincide with the release of the movie, which didn't even wind up coming out in theaters. So, you know, they gave a date and they were like, oh man, we got to get it out there now because the publisher wants it out. And at that point, it was already too late to push it back. So it was released and it's still being patched. Like the issues and bugs that it kind of came out with, they're being fixed pretty fast. And the great thing is the developer is really responsive. They're listening to the critiques and they're working on it in real time to make it better for the players who wanted the game to be more complete when it first came out.
But dude, yeah. If the game came out in such an incomplete state, with how much it was hyped up and advertised, I would imagine that was a massive disappointment to the people who are looking forward to it.
Yeah, one of my good friends, I don't know if he's still in the chat, but Fred5107TM, he's the toughest critic on that game.
I actually went and checked out his channel because I recognized the name and I saw that he had a bunch of videos on it.
Yeah, so he's kind of like one of the leading authorities on the game. Like he covered it before the thing even came into existence. He was like right on top of all the news that was setting up for the big reveal of it. But yeah, he pretty much like he won't let anything slide. Like if there's something with a game that just doesn't seem to come across as complete or like it had enough time and effort put into it, he will definitely call it out. So I always give him props for doing that, for not just kind of backing down and saying, okay, well, oh, well, you know, it's like this and it is what it is. Like developers, especially with the hardware and resources that they have now, can do more. All it takes is them having the time and ability to. And yeah, so when a developer is rushed to get something out of the door, that's always going to hinder the final product.
Unfortunately, and we've seen that with many of cases.
The Ratchet and Clank remake?
Was it? No, it was rushed. Why am I even asking that? Yes, it was rushed. Yes, dude, the Ratchet and Clank remake. I have many issues with that game, but I'm pretty sure everybody does.
Yeah, it's another clear case of how you miss the mark because you have to get something out in time for, you know, Sony's deadline and also to meet the ends of the producers of the Ratchet and Clank movie so that you have a product to sell a product, basically.
It was confined to certain things that were happening in the movie that it had to coincide with. And as a result of that, it kind of threw off its ability to be 100% faithful to the original game. In multiple planets cut, the weapons aren't the same as the original game. The dialogue is so stilted and basic when they could have just... I would have been fine with them reusing the original lines from the original game, honestly.
Me too, yeah.
Honestly, I thought about how it could be made to be better before. I don't think I have my thoughts completely rehearsed enough to go into detail on that right now, but yeah, I wish that all the planets had been included. I wish that the arsenal had been the original arsenal, and I would have been fine with the planets that weren't seen in the movie having their dialogue moments and stuff like that to be directly lifted from the original game. I would have rathered that been the case.
Yeah, me too. I feel like fans would have been much more pleased with that as an alternative to, you know, them making these new cutscenes that lack any sort of semblance of passion and emotion that was in the first game. I just feel like they really fell flat on their face with making it what it should have been. And it's a shame because in the last, I suppose, 11 years or so, Ratchet and Clank games have not been up to the standards of what they once were. I think that there have been very acceptable and playable titles that have been fun. You know, I like Into the Nexus, but I also won't overlook the glaring flaws that it has and issues. I think that if you would have cut Full Frontal Assault out of the equation and just went right from All for One to developing Into the Nexus and having that 2-year development cycle, it could have been a much broader and rich game that offered more to the player. As it stands, I think it's good for what it is. It definitely, you know, it definitely adds something that the series was missing from Full Frontal Assault and All for One.
I've got my own input, but first I want to address something that I just saw pop up in the comments, because I haven't been live streaming with you and Kevin. This is my first time on you, but on you. Oh, imagine the fan art of that. No, this is my first. This is my first time on here, I should say, and we've got Born of the Blood asking if we're accepting calls like last time. So I'm guessing you and Kevin were accepting calls at one point.
It was probably Kevin. I tend to want to just stay on topic. I also don't have a number that I could put on here that isn't a private number. So I'm not too sure how Kevin does that. I'm pretty sure he doesn't use his own number. Maybe he does because he's a bit of a daredevil. You know, he wants people to call him up. He wants people to either, you know, talk shit to his face or have a genuine conversation. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to risk my number just kind of floating aimlessly on the internet. But if there is a way that I could give like a number for people to call that masks what my real number is, I would do it, but I'm not going to take a chance right now. That'll be for another time, maybe when Kevin's in this next stream.
I wish he was here right now because I was totally wanting to talk with him about this stuff too.
Yeah, I want to as well. He just had a bit of a rough day. You know, he's a hard worker. He's really diligent. He's on his stuff, and he wanted me to take over tonight for the stream so that you and I could talk about Jack and any other, you know, topic that would come to mind. Like we've been rambling on about DMC and all that great stuff. So for anyone who's still in the chat, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to kids ramble about constant gaming topics. This is what we do best. Like if it weren't on this stream, we would definitely be doing it on a Discord call right now. So this is just something that's so ordinary for us. We've been doing this for like years and years and years, and man, I couldn't ask for anything more. So, you know, the opportunity to present it now is really great. And everyone subscribe to Nico the Nacho, man, because he's the man. Like he's going to be coming out with some really cool content.
That's the plan, at least.
Yeah. The reference the example that I always cite when I kind of like bring you up in a conversation is that he's like Scottish Duck. Like you don't talk like Scottish Duck. You're not Scottish, but like you have the same humor and quick wit and lines that'll just come up out of your head when you do commentaries, and it's likable, it's relatable, it's fun to just kick back and watch when you've had kind of like a lousy day. Like you're like, oh man, things kind of suck right now. Let me check out Nico the Nacho's Ratchet and Clank Let's Play and, you know, have him make me smile and give me a laugh. Like that's like people need more of that, and it's more genuine.
I grew up watching Scottish Duck, and I'm also aware that there was a point at which you were kind of buddies with Scottish Duck or something of the sorts. And honestly, if he were to take note of my Let's Plays and start watching me, like I would think of that as things coming full circle, and that would honestly make me super happy and excited. So since we're talking about it, I do have a couple of parts of my initial attempt at the run of that Ratchet & Clank Let's Play. That those parts are going to be made private fairly soon, so go ahead and go and watch them while they're still up, because they're not going to be available for too much longer. Because what happened was when I was making my initial run, my computer sort of crapped out on me. It has absolutely no storage space on it, and it's an old-as sin dinosaur, so I'm really not working with the optimal equipment to do a full-fledged Let's Play yet. Luckily, I'm going to be coming into a replacement laptop soon, and it's going to be fresh and clean with nothing on the hard drive, so once I have that, I'm going to be starting over on the Let's Play, and I'm hoping to make it a lot better than what the initial one was shaping up to be anyway. So
higher quality, better performance for the stream while you're recording the game.
I'm a complete and utter noob. Like, I am 100% fresh to the YouTube game, but it's something that I've been wanting to do for years and years. So once I officially get this Let's Play going and not cancel it a quarter of the way through because my equipment crapped out on me, I'm hoping to go on and just play game after game and maybe do reviews and stuff too. I would love to make those well-edited reviews with like comedic skits and stuff in them, within the vein of, TGX and games reveals, who I know that you're buddies with, who I would really love to be able to get the chance to collaborate and stuff with at some point, as well as bringing you in on it. That would be cool. And Kevin, man.
Yeah, the cool thing about YouTube for gamers in sort of the niche scene is that we all got each other's backs. Like we're all part of the same circle, and we're here to promote our love and admiration for the era of video games we look up to, and also just kind of like give each other a hand sometimes. Like I know that Jay he'll promote us sometimes, give us a shout out on his channel, make a bulletin, and we do the same for him, vice versa. So it's just a great collaborative effort to get these talks going, to get more people noticed and aware of content creators who really have their heart in it. Like they're not out for just money. They're not out to just kind of like scam people. They're out to talk about their favorite games with other people who grew up on those games and love them passionately and dearly. And, that's what I root for on this platform, because it's kind of been taken over a lot by, cattiness and some weird policies that are in effect right now. So, it's better to kind of bring it back down to earth and make it about something that's, much more intimate for people and just a form of escape. People want that escape. They want that freedom to just kind of be in their comfort zone. And for me, I know my comfort zone is talking about video games, music, any form of entertainment possible. So, right now I'm kind of staying pretty consistent with the gaming topics, but the more that we find people who are interested in like music topics and things like that, it'll be great to dive into that too, because I have like a ton of musical interests and, I'm a bit of a musician myself. So if I can meet people more like that too along the way, it just opens so many doors and creates so many possibilities. So, yeah.
Carved the Warp here has subscribed to my YouTube channel, so that makes me happy.
There we go. Well, stay tuned, everyone, because like I said, I liked your first 3 parts for your Let's Play, but that's just mainly because like I like listening to you. Like I didn't really mind the quality of it so much as it was just like really fun to like hear you talk over the Ratchet and Clank gameplay and hear some of your insights. So yeah, I mean, you've been playing Ratchet and Clank just as long as me, and
longer probably.
Yeah, because we're really close in age, and it's cool because the time frame that you and I met, we were both like maybe preteens, early teenagers, and we were both like heavily into role playing and kind of like wanting to be these characters, wanting to like express our love for the fandom, our love as fans in the fandom actually, and become like the characters, talk about it nonstop. So we pretty much have been doing this for I'd say like 10 years almost.
Yeah, more than a decade at this point.
Yeah, and it's the coolest thing ever because we were just kids. Like that's all we were the first generation pretty much of like the kids that would get like really used to being on the internet and really used to like finding their outlets that they could talk to other people with. Like there were some that were like much older than us, like in our age group, like, and we all just communicated like very well with each other, about our favorite games, about our favorite forms of entertainment. And till this day, like it's something I appreciate so much. When I was a kid, like I didn't realize how special it was to me. Because then, you get into like your mid-teens and you're like, oh, that was lame. Like, maybe I should do something else. Maybe it shouldn't be about like video games or any of this geek stuff. You go through your little phase where you want to try to divert your attention to something else that like makes you seem more serious. I went through that too. I wouldn't bring up video games as like my main point of interest to people. I'd be like, yeah, it's music. It's, movies, it's acting.
There was a period of time in which I wouldn't wear any shirt that had print on it unless it was a band shirt, because I thought that shirts with print on them were for kids, and then I would get made fun of for it. So
there you go. Yeah. When you
It's-
have to hide like a vital piece of yourself, it's uncomfortable. You feel like, oh man, like maybe, I shouldn't show this part of me to certain people. Like that's a difficult thing to do, and that's something I don't want to vouch for anyone to do. Like I think that you should always, be very open and honest about what you love, what you appreciate in your life more than anything, especially if it's something as harmless and can be as productive as video games. I mean, look what it's given us. It's given us a platform, the ability to talk to multiple people who have the same interest. I mean, it's definitely not just some boring little side thing that you do during the day. I mean, it's something that you could grow a really deep passion for, and finding that passion, like digging deeper into it, is something that's really fun and really explorative. And I want to really like give everyone the inspiration to do that more, be more open about your love for video games, but also be open about it in a way that's not just, I kind of just chill on my couch and play them. Like talk about what like talk about everything that makes the experience of being a gamer so lively and such a joyride. Like that's what I like to do.
I like the back and forth that's going on in the chat right now. I don't do phases. I stick by my principles, says Carved Warped, and I can vibe with that. I also try to stick by principles and such.
Me too.
But Dan, do either of you guys have any interest in developing a game? I'll get to that in a second, but I want to address Burn of the Blood here made a really good comment that Carved replied to, saying that's because video games are unfairly maligned by our culture, which is unfortunately true. But I like the fact that esports is a thing because it's sort of normalizing it as more of a, regular medium. Like, I like the fact that we're seeing video games starting to be regarded as just as regular of a form of entertainment as books or movies.
Me too.
Unfortunately, with that comes the corporate involvement that comes with especially movies. But you win some, you lose some. Yeah. But anyway, so Dan comments saying, do either of you guys have any interest in developing a game? And funny you should say that. You want to talk to them about Sly 4, Matt?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am developing a game, or to put it into perspective, I am one of the developers of a game. So essentially, I'm the lead writer and creative director on Sly 4 Deceit of Thieves, which is a passion project that me and a couple of other very hardcore and dedicated fans have put together, who are really good at what they do, whether it's animation, whether it's programming, whether it's writing. So we all have a collective form of talents that we put together and do our best to feel this whole thing out, like get used to the experience of like, what do we need? What are the tools? What are the resources that we need to use to make this thing happen? And so for us, it's just been an experience of, making something that we are able to make with just all of our own natural talents, all of our own natural skills and abilities. And also as people who grew up with this series that want to give our own take on it, our own perspective on it. I don't think I'm fighting to say, hey, this is what Sly Cooper is. This is what Sly Cooper should represent for everybody out there. But our own take on it is pretty similar to how anyone can just kind of jump on board for, any sort of franchise and say, hey, I like what you've done here, but let me see what I could introduce to it. Let me see what I could present to it. So you take a look at like the superhero genre, the comic book movie genre. It's all derivative of pretty solid source material. And what you know, a lot of directors and writers do is they take that source material and they give their own fresh take on it. They give their own perspective on it. So it's not the right or wrong perspective to have. It's just our perspective. It's just what we see fit to create and mold from the series. And I think that, you know, it's been really interesting to see the reception and reactions to what we've done here, because a lot of people are under the impression that we're just like edgy, like, you know, edgelords who are like, yeah, let's make Sly Cooper like really dark and, you know, gruesome, bro. Like, but we're not. I'm certainly not that kind of writer.
You've got people accusing you of trying to replace Thieves in Time.
Yeah, and that's not the intention either. I think that a universe like Sly Cooper opens so many doors and can have so many varied interpretations. You know, to just leave it at, okay, well, there should only be like one fourth installment. There should only be one Thieves in Time. You know, you shouldn't try to overwrite it or do something different. I think that's limiting to a series like Sly Cooper. I think that closes the door, and that's not what we want to do. We want to open the door to, you know, new interpretations of Sly Cooper, to fresh takes on the series, and, you know, just see what we could pick apart, what we can dive into, that the series has always had, but maybe a writer didn't bring it out, or it just wasn't really fully explored. So yeah, I think that Thieves in Time, for one thing, I like the game. You know, I like Thieves in Time as a game. I don't necessarily enjoy it as a new addition to the Sly Cooper series, because I don't think that it properly, you know, does justice to the source material that it came from. Or
it did some new things. The story did some things and took some turns that I wasn't of, and other people weren't either.
Yeah. You know, it's a heavily flawed game. The thing is, it's playable. And this is the excuse that I give for every game that people have a divide on. I say, okay, it's a game. Look, it's meant to be for your enjoyment, and take that for what it is. If you want to play it, then you could play it, have yourself a blast if you like it. But for other people, you know, that read deeper into it, they want something that feels more like a complete package that they could get lost in. You know, I think that what makes the Uncharted games work so well is that the characters, the story, I mean, Uncharted doesn't have a 10 out of 10 story, but all the pieces of it fall together to make something that's believable, that's relatable, and doesn't feel like it's ham-fisted. Even if a lot of it takes predictable turns. And with Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time, I think it's a very noticeable tonal shift from the first three games, or at least the first two in particular. I think it really goes off the rails and starts to become something that's, you know, a little bit too whimsical for its own good. And that's not necessarily something that I fell in love with the Sly Cooper series for. And I think that's why, you know, Kev and I and the other people who are part of our little team for Sly Cooper banded together and said, you know, no pun intended, we're not like the Band of Thieves, but
no, make the puns. Make all the puns, dude. Be shameless about the pun. If you don't like puns, fuck you.
We do like puns here. But yeah, we got together and we said, hey, what's stopping us from just cooking up our own little idea? You know, it can't hurt. There's no harm in it, even if it's not something that people, you know, are crazy to jump on board with because they're like, where did this come from? Let's just do it. Let's see like how we could put this together, and if we can make like a little demo to give people an idea of what like a Sly 4 would look like that doesn't have to sort of abide to Thieves in Time's own version of the Sly Cooper universe that it created. So yeah, that's pretty much like a really long-winded explanation on a little bit of the backstory, and there's more details to go into, but I guess I'll just kind of like leave it at that for now.
So this is basically what my experience with Thieves in Time was, because I remember when it was coming out.
I love your perspective on it too. I'd love definitely share your perspective.
Yeah, you and I were both super hyped about it. Like heard that it was going to be continuing on from Bentley saying, "I'm building a time machine to find out." We thought we were going to see Clockwork in the past and all this cool kind of stuff, and the trailers looked hype as fuck. And me personally, I liked the new art style for the cutscenes. I know not everybody did, but I enjoyed it. So there's that. But yeah,
it's cool. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's a good art style.
Thieves in Time started out like the first two worlds, 3 if you count the beginning in Paris. It started out super promising. At first, there was little things that I had issues with. The biggest nitpick that I have is the way that Sly runs, because it looks like he's constipated, and nobody else seems to have made that observation except for me. Nobody talks about this shit, but he runs like he's got something fucking stuck up his ass. He runs like Ratchet did in Deadlocked, except for the fact in Deadlocked, Ratchet actually had something stuck up his ass. It was his tail! Because his suit didn't allow for it to hang out the back like it was supposed to. So he couldn't let it hang, my dude.
Let it hang.
Wow, I just went on a freaking long-winded rant.
Hashtag let it hang. Let it hang. Okay,
Holy
guys,
shit.
let it hang.
Actually, don't let certain things hang out in public, though. That's a very bad idea. Or if you do, don't tell the people that we told you to. And, yeah, that was the first little nitpick I had, and then the episode titles. Apparently, most of them were references to things, but honestly, they came off to me like they were kind of, I don't know, basic and uncreative. I wasn't a fan of the episode titles in Sci 4. Hashtag let it hang. But besides those little nitpicks, the first few episodes in Sly 4 were great, I think. The point at which the game shits the bed, because, like, the game, like, full-on shits the bed the second you go back to the Arctic era. Not the Arctic era, because you know what I mean. Back to the prehistoric era is when the game shits the bed, because you got Bob, which is a freaking joke character. It throws the lore out of whack because Satan Common was the first Cooper, and we could have gotten him. We could have gotten any of the other Coopers that we've heard Sly talk about, but we don't know much about. Like, we could have gotten Thaddeus. We could have gotten Henrietta. We could have, honestly, if they wanted to do the Brute Cooper, they should have just done Sly McCooper. But no, we've got Bob, which is a joke character, a complete waste of an ancestor, a complete waste of a time period, and I didn't like it. It started to seem like they weren't taking the game seriously anymore with that. What the hell is this shit? And so that's when the game started to really fall apart with me. Just that one episode is where everything is what set everything on its downward slope. And after that episode, I think that the game starts redeeming itself, because gameplay-wise, Thieves in Time is amazing. Gameplay-wise, I actually think that Thieves in Time is the best in the series. And graphically, it looks absolutely stunning. But, yeah, you get into... I can't remember if the medieval era comes just after the prehistoric era or not, but... Then the Penelope plot, the fucking hell. I cannot go into my thoughts without stammering. I'm sorry, people. I'm trying. This is my first experience with this. Anyway, then the Penelope...
You're good, buddy. No worries. Take your time.
And honestly, I think that my rage over this is part of why I could not express my thoughts properly. Because it's so stupid, it doesn't make sense, and, I mean, I get some explanations that people make, but just, no, it's out of character. No, I hated it. Like, where should we start with talking about Penelope in this game? You are looking at something.
I am indeed looking at my phone to share a link to one of my friends, telling him how to watch the stream because he wants to check it out. So, brief intermission. But I was still listening to you. I can multitask, ever so slightly. Yeah.
The Penelope plot twist was completely out of character. It felt to me that it was just shoved in there as a forced twist to throw the story and throw people for a loop. You were being pretty cheeky about that, Sanzaru, but it wasn't cute. Bad. Penelope should have been at least brainwashed. Yes, that's what I was thinking. Like, if they were to make a Sly 5, I would say there should be some sort of retcon to where she was brainwashed, because
Yeah.
I honestly don't believe she would have done that to Bentley of her own volition. Penelope wasn't evil or malicious or anything like that. Penelope was this sweet and innocent little thing, you know? And then they just completely ruined that. And
yeah, I think Sly 3 makes her character very transparent to the audience. I don't think they ever try to, like, some people have gone out of their way to make baseless fan speculation that like Penelope's a sociopath and she's always had like a hidden agenda, and I'm just like,
she
where?
didn't look like that.
Where? Yeah.
She didn't. I mean, yeah, Black Baron, but
Oh yeah. But to me, her as the Black Baron wasn't necessarily done with malice or out of, you know, the intent to hurt anyone or make like essentially she's a thief like the rest of them are, but she's an honorable thief. And that's the whole theme of Honor Among Thieves, is that thieves aren't terrible people to their core. At least in the Sly Cooper universe. I don't know about in real life, but in the Sly Cooper universe, thieves aren't categorized, you know, those thieves, not all thieves are categorized as terrible people, because some of them, you know, are pretty upstanding people who just have their own way of serving justice. Let's say that.
We could
kind of like that now.
A lot of extrajudicial things in this chat if we go down that rabbit hole, which I would prefer we didn't do.
Right. That is a rabbit hole in and of itself. But for now, I guess we should stay on task and stick to the gaming world. Then we could kind of crawl slowly over into the real worlds, or maybe relate the two, because, you know, there's no real boundary there. But yeah.
Those are my two biggest issues with Thieves in Time, and also the third is that they passed up on the opportunity to have Clockwork make his return. I hate that they did that too, but yeah.
Yeah, Clockwork, I think it would have made the most amount of sense for him to have some form of appearance in Thieves in Time, even if it's not a major role in the story. I think that he's way too vital of a character not to appear in the time travel episodes, because he was always there, and it's strange to just kind of have him watching in the distance. But yeah, like not having a more interactive role in the story. I know he's an Easter egg, but that would have added some extra stakes to it. But then again, I also feel like they wanted to take a new direction with Thieves in Time. They didn't really want it to be too tied down to the previously established lore, and so they made a lot of liberties. They took a lot of liberties to change certain things, such as, you know, adding a new Cooper that previously didn't exist, making Penelope a bad guy, like an actual bad guy, not just, you know, someone in disguise as a bad guy who would wind up becoming like an invaluable member to the gang and Bentley's girlfriend. You know, honestly, weird decision.
Honestly, everything else in Thieves in Time is perfectly fine, and it passes for me. I like everything else in Thieves in Time, but those three things, the Bob level, Penelope's turn to evil, and the lack of Clockwork, those three things are what make Thieves in Time such a disappointment for me. And honestly, though, I think that's a recurring thing for the entirety of the Sly series, actually, which is why it's always fallen below Ratchet and Jack, and now Devil May Cry for me, because every one of the Sly games, though they're great, they have some sort of major glaring flaw in them. Sly 1, it's just the fact, like, Sly 1 is the most consistent and streamlined of the series, but it's got all the mini games, and also it doesn't have the refinements to gameplay and the way it plays out that the later games in the series do, because Sly 2 completely overhauled it and set the status quo for what the Sly games should be. You know, the open hub world with the Jaws encasing with the jobs and casing the joint for the heist. You know, Sly 2 set that precedent, and the story with Sly 2, the writing and the way it was built up and the twists and turns in it were excellent, were masterful. And then the climax of Sly 2 happens, and then Clockla, fucking Clockla, what the hell? It was so stupid and cheesy and out of nowhere, and Neela claiming she's the Alpha and Omega, and it's the most cheese drivel you can get. And then Sly 3, the freaking pirate stage. I haven't met many people who like the pirate stage, but its existence is what drags Sly 3 down. And then Sly 4. We've got the things that I mentioned. We've got Bob, we've got the Penelope twist, and we've got the lack of clockwork. That seems to be a running thing with the Sly games, and honestly, now that I point it out verbally, in a way, that kind of makes Thieves in Time fall in line with the rest of the series.
Well, yeah, I think that all games aren't exempt from having issues like that. Even the best stories in games that I've played have a plot hole or two, or something that just feels like they had to write that in there just to kind of keep up the game, keep it moving, and not break the pace. I feel like a good example of this is Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception. There's a whole entire excerpt of Drake's Deception that goes off the rails and kind of like takes a departure from like the main story, and just has a series of gameplay events where Nathan Drake has to search for Sully because he thinks he's in captivity from the pirates
ship.
And
the shipyard.
What this does is it makes for great set pieces for great events that take place in the gameplay, but you're removed from the story in these events of the game. So the issue with that is you can't relate to what's going on. I mean, you can, because you want to help Sully at this point in the game. Like, you're like, oh, I just got to make sure Sully is safe. But it's taking you to so many different locations that you're kind of losing the focus of like what's happening in the story. And a lot of it just feels like it's there to just give you a set piece, to give you some gameplay. It's an excuse for the gameplay to exist instead of the story being the reason why the gameplay is driving you.
I mean, I guess objectively the shipyard section does have those problems, but at the
they're
same
really good though. They're so much fun to play.
I really enjoyed the shipyard part.
They're the best parts of the game. They're the best parts of the game. But yeah, basically the point I was trying to make is that, no story is pretty much exempt from having those issues, like those glaring issues in terms of making it fit into the game. Now, with Sly 2, the plot twist with the first plot twist with Neela is fantastic. It's believable. She's crooked and there's something you got to do about it. Her kind of taking it to the extreme at the end of the game was a little on the nose. It's not the most believable thing in the world.
That could have been done gracefully, but it's just the idea of her taking over Clockwork's body where I feel like it jumps the shark.
I think so too.
Yeah. I would rather see them reanimate Clockwork and have it actually be Clockwork. That, honestly. And also, the final battle was super underwhelming. Because the final battle in Sly 1 against Clockwork is, honestly, it goes down for me as one of the most epic boss fights in games that I've played, at least. Like, I know it departs from regular gameplay, but it's still, like, straightforward control. You're shooting at him, you're flying through the air in a volcano with this epic boss track music that's playing. And I feel like that was much more of a memorable final fight than the final fight of Band of Thieves.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's where, the last few missions of Sly 2 is really where the game starts to lose focus. I think that the first few chapters of Sly 2 are the best in the entire series. Like the most pure form of Sly Cooper that you could ever play. Like,
I mean, that Paris theme, man. Everybody remembers that Paris theme. That piece of music is iconic.
Right, and it's used so much. It's the one theme that most people associate Sly Cooper with. Like, you can't not think of Sly Cooper and not have the Paris theme kind of go off in your head when you hear it. You know,
yeah. You know, it was so iconic that in Sly 3, if you're scrolling through the menu options, each tick is a note of the theme. It's so great.
Yeah. People love it that much, and I can't blame them. Because I love it too. I mean, the whole entire soundtrack of Sly Cooper is something noteworthy. It's really fitting to the atmosphere and the vibes of each game. Even Sly Cooper Thieves in Time soundtrack. Like, I think Sly Cooper Thieves in Time soundtrack is A1. It successfully paints the picture of what you're going to experience in that game. Like some sci-fi, some Doctor Who, like whimsical stuff. Like, it's perfect for the layout of that game. So each game in the Sly series has a great soundtrack. Like, that's the one thing you can never take away from it.
I think my favorite track from Sly 3 was the Cooper Vault theme.
Yeah.
Like, it's when you listen to it, it's so obviously synthesized, but if you listen to it and imagine what it would sound like if it was a live orchestra playing it, like, that is that's some epic and whimsical orchestral material, honestly.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yeah. Since we're talking about plot holes, though, this is something that I've wanted to address for a long time that I don't hear many people address. Can we talk about how Alistair Azimuth died for nothing?
Yeah, in the words of MGK, let's talk about it. So what's your take on it? What's your opinion on that?
Because, like, it's stressed so much about how the Orvis chamber should not be used to revert to the past. You know, the clock shouldn't be used as a time machine. And, like, that's what Alistair tries to do in the final battle. He tries to revert the past so he can go and go and stop Tachyon. And, like, yeah, using the clock that way would destroy the universe. But at the same time, Ratchet has been doing this at multiple points earlier in the game through the use of these time portals. Like, I don't get why Sigmund couldn't interject in the middle of the conversation and say, hey, listen, buddy, like, we can't let you use the Orvis chamber to go back in time, but what I can do is open a time portal here, and no harm, no foul, the universe won't be destroyed. But they don't do it. They had the option. I mean, literally, when you save Azimuth earlier in the game, and Ratchet says that he traveled back in time, and Alistair says, back in time, how far? And Ratchet says, not far enough. Like, the fact that they're able to do that is hinted at, and they never do it. So, they have their final battle, Alistair nearly destroys the universe, and he dies. For nothing! Yeah. The climax could have been completely avoided if somebody had just said, hey guys, time portals. And I suggested this as a sin in Valefor's Everything Wrong with Ratchet and Clank and Crack in Time video. By the way, I love his Everything Wrong with series. It's so fucking funny. But he didn't put it in. And I was so offended because, dude, that's probably the biggest sin in the game, man.
Yeah. So my perspective on this, even though I side with you and I feel like that's a pretty big, like, oh boy, well, we didn't really take that into consideration. I think that in the narrative sense of A Crack in Time, it still works to an extent. And the way I could kind of rationalize that is because the time portals exist as an entity outside of the clock being used primarily as a time machine. And what I mean by that is the time portals, the way that I always figured it from playing A Crack in Time, are actually a repercussion of time sort of glitching up right now. See, time is falling apart in the middle of A Crack in Time.
Actually, that's right. And those time portals could only be created in the time rifts.
So to me, I feel like the main point that drives the story is the Great Clock itself cannot be used to rewind the entirety of the universe back in time. You could, in theory, go through a time portal to a specified date in time and mess with the events, but that's only as a result of the fact that time is pretty much out of the loop right now. And I almost said Thieves in Time. Forgive me, A Crack in Time. We're talking about time travel games, so it could all get a little confusing here.
The thing is that you go through the Great Clock fixing time on these planets, and Fastoon is one of the planets that you fix the time rifts on.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an option all the way up until Clank repaired the rifts on Fastoon.
There may also be a rule that you can't travel too far back into the past. We can assume that the attack on Fastoon probably happens maybe, I don't know, what would you have to estimate the attack on Fastoon to happen, like at about the time of
22 years ago
22
as of A Crack in Time, because in A Crack in Time that is how old Ratchet is. Do not at me. Yes, he is. But so yeah 2 years.
I won't argue with it for sure. I know everyone has their own like take on like the timeline and stuff like that, but I feel like that's the most sensible timeline to take Ratchet's age into account.
So the furthest back in time that Ratchet goes in the game is back to the Battle of Gemlik Valley, which is 10 years ago.
10 years, yeah. So yeah, that's something I feel. Another thing to take into account is that those events that were changed by going back in time were not earth-shattering events, and they weren't really something that would affect the universe as a whole or change the destiny of something greater than one point in time. Like, I know the Fongoids were saved and their civilization didn't get destroyed, but that also took place in a singular place in time. It took place on one planet. It was one war. And so I guess you could kind of make the case that if the events were to be changed with the Lombaxes not going into the other dimension and staying in the universe, so much would change that the universe might fall apart because of how great the change is. Also, Ratchet and Clank wouldn't meet. So that's also something to take into consideration. The clock would not have a guardian because Ratchet and Clank wouldn't be able to go on their adventures and have the destiny that they were meant to fulfill. So basically what you do is by going back in time to avert the Lombaxes being, swept away to another dimension or murdered by Tachyon, what happens is it creates a butterfly effect. And in time travel theory, the butterfly effect will incur some sort of, massive shift in, time. That's
paradoxes stacking on top of paradoxes.
There you go. So
exactly what ripped the universe asunder in the first place, which made the great,
my friends. So, even though this stuff isn't really explained very thoroughly in the game itself, I think there are enough reasonable arguments you could make as to why it's easy to, overlook. And also the narrative of A Crack in Time is so solid and tightly knitted together that what happens in the game is believable enough to the extent that you could be like, okay, well, I could forgive that they can't just whip up a time portal to go back to the time that the Lombaxes were getting killed off by Tachyon or jump to the next dimension. And so that's my best way of kind of rationalizing everything that happens in A Crack in Time. All the time travel plot holes, I feel like that's the best way I could really, sew them together neatly in a little bow. But yeah, I can't make the same case for Thieves in Time. That's the biggest difference between A Crack in Time and Thieves in Time is I honestly could not be able to put more thought into the time travel physics and lore of Thieves in Time than what's kind of given to us on the surface. It's all surface level. It's all just whimsical. You're not supposed to think about it type of stuff. Whereas with the Crack in Time, I feel like there's more like Star Trek level thought put into the time travel mechanics.
DeWarp is asking, where is Angela Cross in the future games? And I have
where is she?
I have thought in detail about this, and let me try and recall the answer that I came up with, because I'm not rehearsed on it, but like I did come to what my answer to that question was. So let me try and go through my thought process and re-arrive at what the answer that I came up with.
Let's hear it, my friend.
We know when we hear the newscast about Angela Cross, in which we also learned that she doesn't have a tail, Insomniac, we learned that Max Apogee's ship has been recovered, just floating through space, and its flight registry pinpointed Jacindu as its point of origin. Jacindu is where we find the Dimensionator, and we know that Angela was with Max as she was fleeing from Tachyon. So what I think happened was they got to Jacindu, and one of them went to the Lombax dimension, while the other one stayed behind to hold the portal open for them, and then to make sure the Dimensionator itself was hidden. And I think, I'm not sure whether it would have been Angela or Max who stayed behind, but I'm thinking that whoever stayed behind was probably killed. I think the answer that I arrived at was that Angela was the one who went to the Lombax dimension, and Max was the one who stayed behind to hold the portal open and then to hide the Dimensionator, and then at some point he was tracked down and killed. And what I think happened was they sent Max's ship off without a pilot, on autopilot, as a diversion, because at the time the Drawfids were tailing him. So yeah, I'm thinking that he sent it off as a diversion. However, since it was recovered still floating through space, that implies to me that the Drawfids didn't take the bait, because yeah, it wouldn't have been recovered. It would have been recovered at that point. So I'm thinking what probably happened is they tried to use the ship as a decoy, the Drawfids didn't fall for it, and they came and got Max. That's what I think the version of the events is. So the short answer is, where's Angela in the Lombax dimension? That's what I think.
Yeah. So we've talked about that before. I already know like the whole outline. So if I look like I was dozing off there, it's not because I wasn't listening. It's because you and me have talked about this to no end, so I definitely have heard this before, and I was kind of letting you rock so that you could explain it to our 7 people watching in the chat, which, by the way, if you're in the chat, you could totally say, hey, we're hanging out right now. We've been going for about an hour and a half. It's been really fun. We're having really active discussions. Feel free to submit a question. Keep it polite. And
no, just curse us out. Just put a bunch of.
Or you could do that too. Hey, we're not trying to. Unlike YouTube's policies, we aren't trying to inhibit freedom of speech. We just we ask that you keep it respectful at the least. At the least, my friends.
Make dick jokes.
Yes, why not? We could go off. It's okay. We're live. We're live.
The conflicting of personalities, though.
Well, this is why we have a great dynamic. I'm usually trying to keep the peace. I'm usually trying to, make sure everyone kind of behaves or stays on their toes, acts on their best behavior. And Nick's over here like,
got me over here with my chaotic energy.
Yes, but we love it. It's okay. So yeah, questions. We're willing to talk about anything. We also opened up with Jack and Daxter. So if a few of you are here to hear us talk more about the Jack rumor, we could briefly kind of like go over that again too.
I will actually be right back really quickly. So take it away, Matt. While I am gone, it will be just for a few minutes.
No problem, my friend. You're totally okay. Take your time, and I'm right here if anyone needs to ask me anything in the chat. Hey, how you doing, my friend? Do you think Jack will be revealed at the next Sony event?
All right, I'm back from the slaughter.
Excellent. Yeah, so we got a question. Danger Boy. Hey, Danger Boy. Good to see you in the chat again.
We're talking about you at the beginning of the chat.
We were. You were like the first person that we referenced. So Danger Boy asks, do you think Jack will be revealed at the next Sony event? That's what the hope is right now. I mean, again, as we kind of started off when we first opened up with the stream, there are so many leads right now on Jack coming back, or at least having something to do with PlayStation 5. I feel like there's a case I could make for there being way too much on the table right now that would suggest that Jack and Daxter has a higher possibility of either being in development or, as the rumors are stating, like being a launch title for PS5. If it is going to be a launch title for PS5, then I would think that, you know, it's going to be revealed at the next big event, which is going to showcase like all the biggest titles that people can look forward to buying on PS5. Like, they got to have a system seller. What we do know is that, you know, a few insiders have had conflicting reports back and forth. So Moore's Law is dead. I think his YouTube name is, was the one who said that Mark Cerny's working on a secret project. He also said that this project is a big title that, from the past that kind of faded out for a little while and is going to make a comeback for PS5. So this much we know. But he also later kind of dialed back on what he said and said that, yeah, I don't know if it's going to be Jack and Daxter. And, you know, to take things with a grain of salt. So he backpedaled. So I wouldn't really put the most amount of stock into what he said. However, there are still rumors buzzing around that Jack and Daxter will be seen at this Sony event, and that it's actually still going to be like a Mark Cerny project. It's going to be an in-house Sony studio that's working on it. So there's really no way to tell right now. This could be the best kept secret for all we know.
Hey, Matt, you're going to have to go without me for a few minutes again because I am being requested to go do a thing.
Okay. Our boy Nico the Nacho has to do a thing. So excuse him for a few minutes while I continue to jabber on about Jack. All right. See you soon. So for the 5 people still watching, or 6 that are in this chat, please feel free to leave a comment. Give me your thoughts and insight if you have any on this Jack reveal, with the likelihood of it is being shown to us or if it's actually like a legitimate thing. There's a lot up in the air right now in terms of Jack and Daxter. I feel like the most consistent thing is just that these rumors are popping up seemingly every couple weeks. The last rumor before this latest one that just came up was maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe 3.5. So I want to know like what you guys think. If you think that like Jack and Daxter is sort of being a very well kept secret right now, and it actually is going to be a launch title for PS5, or do you think that everyone's just kind of blowing smoke up our asses and making us believe that Jack and Daxter might be coming back? I know some people have a very critical outlook on Jack coming back, and they think that the series has kind of had its time and it's run its course, and wouldn't really see the light of day again. But I would argue that Jack and Daxter still has a lot in the tank, and that Sony would want to take advantage of an IP that still has so much to explore. And also with the sort of relevance of 3D platformers again, Crash Bandicoot coming back into the mainstream, Spyro, I think there's no better time for Sony to kind of look at their lineup of IPs and assess which ones would be the most profitable. I think that Jack and Daxter it's fair to say that Jack and Daxter would be one of the most profitable IPs that Sony have, not only for nostalgia's sake, but because there's a lot you could do with Jack that would be very interesting and vibrant for people to look at. It's such a on PS2, Jack and Daxter was such a graphical powerhouse for the console, and it would be a great golden opportunity for them to take that same world on PS2, put it on a PS5, and really blow people away with how stunning and gorgeous the exotic visuals of Jack and Daxter are. So to do that with any other game, I don't think it's as possible, because there's nothing really else on the Sony lineup that would be as captivating. It could just be, some people have suggested that it could be SOCOM. Some people have said it could be Killzone, and I have nothing against those games, but I also don't think that they would be nearly as eye-catching or as profitable. Maybe Killzone would be profitable, but I don't think that it would catch as many people's attention to bring back to first-person shooters that by no means are bad games or wherever bad games, but they don't have the unique identity that Jack and Daxter had back in the day and aren't as recognizable as staples of the Sony brand.
All right, I'm back. Dozens of innocent souls laid by my hand. No, I'm kidding.
Sweet.
Yeah, I went to run my.
So I just kind of explained my point of view on why, there's a good argument for Jack coming back, why there's an argument that Jack won't come back. And now I'm going to answer the questions that were sent to us in the chat.
I'm seeing a couple interesting ones.
Yeah, so I answered the first one from Danger Boy. Now I'm going to answer Card the Warped.
What if Jack and Daxter had a TV series? Dude, I would love that. I would honestly love that.
Yeah, I think that
I wouldn't want it to be a Sonic Boom kind of deal, though.
You wouldn't want it to be a what kind of deal?
I wouldn't want it to be a Sonic Boom kind of deal, though. I mean, yeah. You're wrong. I hear that the show was unironically great, but I wouldn't want it to go with the kid angle.
Yeah, to me, especially growing up, I always saw Jack and Daxter as a Toonami-ready sort of a series. Like, Toonami was the network on Cartoon Network that was, primarily targeted to like maybe preteens, teenagers, and had shows with more edge, more grit to them, like Teen Titans.
Jack and Daxter anime. Or no,
yeah.
Jack and Daxter show developed by Man of Action. That would be cool.
Yeah, I think that Jack and Daxter has always had a sort of vaguely anime aesthetic. It's like to me, the first Jack and Daxter game is a combination of an anime aesthetic with Disney. So I think if you took that and you also applied a little bit of like, you know, Teen Titans, which is it's relatively anime, you'd pretty much get the perfect Jack and Daxter show that, you know, stays faithful to the games and also just kind of like goes on to become its own thing. And yeah, I could see it in a very anime-esque aesthetic, cartoon-wise, like the illustrations, the animation itself. Do I think it could happen? Well,
Fat chance.
not professionally, not by Sony. Unless the series were to have a full resurgence, like we're kind of predicting right now.
Hopefully.
No.
Then again, I don't know if they would mellow out Daxter at all. I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't want them to dial back Daxter's zany antics for modern audiences.
Yeah. First things first, we got to have Max Casella back in the shoes of
Daxter. Absolutely. And while we're at it, let's make sure that Mike Irwin is the voice of Jack and not the other guy.
Yeah, no disrespect to Josh Keaton, but I don't think he's the face for Jack. Obviously he took over the role because maybe Mike Irwin didn't have time in the recording booth to do Jack and Daxter, which is totally fine, totally cool. But I don't think he's the ideal version of Jack. His version of Jack was a lot more uninteresting to me. Paired with the fact that, you know, The Lost Frontier really wasn't like the most interesting title in the series and didn't have the best writing.
And then there's the other comments from Born of the Blood saying, I really don't want Naughty Dog to have anything to do with it. And I'm in full agreement on that. Not after seeing the bug that they've been bitten by with The Last of Us, not with Neil Cuckman, not with their director simping to Anita Sarkeesian. Not. Actually, the most likely developer, according to most rumors, the most likely candidate is Bluepoint. That's what.
Yeah, I would put my money on Bluepoint Games right now if it's going to be any developer. Although they are not, to my knowledge, a Sony-owned studio, which is what the current rumor is hinting at, that it's going to be a Sony-owned studio right now. So for all we know, it could be a studio that like we don't know the existence of, or like maybe a new Sony studio. We'll just have to wait and see. All we could really do.
I had a theory though. I just had a theory, and I don't know if there's any ground for it. This is just a complete shot in the dark with no other information. But
let's hear it.
What if Toys for Bob are the ones doing not Jack 4, are the ones doing Crash 4? Because Vicarious Visions is wait, no, they're not Sony owned. Never mind. Fuck, that theory doesn't work. I think you can infer where I was going with that, though.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that we're missing right now. Like the rumors and the speculation are all over the place. A lot is up in the air. There's not a lot that's being clarified to us. Like we don't even know how much we could go off of that's legit, or if any of it's legit. Like there's always stuff that's well up in the air that we can't, know for sure, but we could always take the evidence that we have so far gathered up and just kind of go off of it from there. So for this latest rumor, it's saying that there is a Sony-owned studio that is developing the game, and it will be released November 20th, which is the same day as PlayStation 5 as a launch title. That does sound pretty convincing. I'm not going to lie.
And the PlayStation launch date that you just mentioned, that's not official yet either, is it?
No, it is not official yet either. So that's another insider commentary that I'm going off of right now.
Allegedly.
Yes, all alleged. None of this is grounded in fact yet. Unfortunately, I wish it was.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, once again, there's a 50-50 chance that Jack will be making a resurgence, but I think it is curious that there are so many, like we mentioned at the beginning of the stream, that there are so many articles and rumors consistently popping up like over and over and over again. Like it could be any game. It could be Killzone, it could be Resistance, but no, it's always Jak and Daxter. And to me, that either implies two things. So one, it either implies that there is a heavy interest from people that want Jak and Daxter for PlayStation 5. Like there's a lot of wishful thinkers out there that really want Jak back for PS5, and they're doing whatever they could do to make noise and get people talking about it. That's number one. Number two is this is the best kept secret Sony has ever had, and there really is going to be a Jak and Daxter reveal next month, and it's going to be a PlayStation 5 launch title.
We've got another question in the chat saying, you assume that a new Jak game is a reboot then? That is what the leak says. That's what the rumor is.
Right. I'm only going off of the rumor. The current rumor right now is that it's going to be a remake or reimagining of the first game. I feel like this is the most likely decision that any developer would take, so I could buy that. Of course, me personally, I would prefer it to be a sequel, but I understand that from a marketing perspective, you know, it's a safer route to take, because when you're making a sequel to a series that pretty much hasn't had any publication for years and years and years, there's a high risk factor, and the risk factor is that people who didn't grow up with the series, who don't know what it is, will be, you know, so unfamiliar with it that they won't go out of their way to like research what it is or want to know more about it. So making a remake or reimagining is the safest way to ensure that you don't alienate the fans, but also bring forth a new audience that has never heard of Jak and Daxter and would be curious to know more about it. It's a fresh start, and I think that a lot of developers for next-gen consoles are striving for that fresh start. The only exception I guess I could name is Ratchet & Clank, because Ratchet & Clank seems to be taking the sequel route, but that's for a good reason, because I don't think it ever needed to be remade. It was kind of on a roll with very consistent sequels, and it's in Nexus, blatantly sets us up for a sequel that has the whole dimensional concept just going crazy.
I feel like the Rift Apart isn't doing a good enough job to separate itself from the reboot. That's probably very intentional on Insomniac's part to keep the fans who came in with I said reboot, but it's a reimagining. But at the same time, it's not one that I'm very big on. Because we've got Ratchet in his reboot appearance. We've got the recycling of some enemy designs from the reboots. There are some things about the Rift Apart reveal that kind of throw me off a little bit. I'm very wary about Rift Apart. Like, I'm cautiously excited, but I'm wary. Let's see. If you were in charge of a reboot Jak and Daxter game, how would it look like? A straight reboot of the first game. Not reboot. A straight remake. An honorable, like a completely faithful, just remake of the original game. Just with the supercharged graphics. That's the way I prefer to see That's the way I prefer to see those things done. I prefer to keep it 100% faithful because then you get things like the Ratchet & Clank remake, which sucked. Yeah, I would keep it the exact same game, just supercharged graphics. That's what I would do.
I second that. Ditto. So for me, I feel like that would be the safest route to take, and also wouldn't alienate the fans. You don't want to make something that, I get that it would be a reimagining, but you don't want to make something that totally tries to unwrite the first game.
Actually, here's something that I would do. I would flesh out the story more. I would, there would definitely, all the main cutscenes would still be directly lifted from the original game, but, I would flesh out the story more. I would make more, include more detailed dialogue that describes a little bit more of the lore of the universe and stuff like that. Because I'll admit that Jak 1, the story kind of took a little bit of a back seat. So I feel like since we've got the entire world already, the entire world of the game already, designed and all that, that kind of frees up a lot of time for focus on the words. Wow.
You're good, buddy.
On the story.
We've been at this for 2 hours now, so it's okay to get a little,
I think there's something that I want to mention, though, because you and I are both in the Jak and Daxter fan group, and there's a guy who's got a YouTube channel. It's in Spanish, but there's a guy who's got a team who is working on a reboot of a remake of Precursor Legacy, and
I have seen that, yeah.
A lot of the stuff that they are working on that they've gotten the YouTube channel is absolutely fantastic. And give me a second, I'm gonna search for his channel on YouTube, and I'll give the channel name, and you guys can go check it out.
Sweet. So, while you do that, I am going to pardon myself to use the restroom, aka I gotta take a piss, but I will return and we could discuss this further. So everyone who's still in the chat, stay tuned. Thank you so much. If you've been watching this for 2 hours now, thank you so much. It really means everything, and it's just been a great opportunity to geek out with everyone and go over this news, because I want to see Jak more than anyone else. It's just been like the longest ride for me to want to actually see Jak make a proper comeback on a next-gen console. Like, I've been wanting to see Jak in next-gen graphics for the longest time, and I'm not going to count PlayStation Move Heroes or PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale.
So, hey, Matt, before you go... okay, he's gone. Okay, bye, I love you. I guess you guys are stuck with me now. Okay, so, Matt's seen this, so I'll just tell you guys. The YouTube channel for the person who's working on this Jak remake is literally just Jak and Daxter PS5. You can probably look it up right now. I'll show it to you on my phone. This is the channel right here. So you guys can go ahead and look that up and see what the guy's working on. Let's do a sign-off real quickly, actually. Type in the chat if you're still here. I just want to make sure of who's still watching. Do it. I'm waiting. Kill him. Kill him now. No. Okay. Never mind. Yeah. I guess I'm not exactly. Hi. How are you? I'm well. I'm kind of doing a Han Solo reference right now. Let's completely take this in a completely different direction. Do you watch Star Wars? Do you like Star Wars? I like Star Wars. Season 7 was great. Except for that one section in the middle of it with those Martez sisters who wasted multiple episodes when we could have gotten something much better. But hey, the ending was great. If a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. Yeah. Oh, watching the chat. What's everybody else's input on that? I saw a shadow. Hey, Matt's back. Good.
Okay, my friend. Give me one
I was put on the spot there, and my anxiety shot through the roof. I started talking about Star Wars.
Oh, gosh. You think I was going to leave you behind? Here, Nick, just completely take over the stream for however long it still lasts.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen it before, but I'm going to show it to you. This is the channel of the people who are working on the Jak and Daxter remake. It's literally just
Beautiful.
called Jak and Daxter Live.
Yeah. So everyone who wants to see a different artist's interpretation of what Jak on Next Gen would look like, this is the closest thing that we could get to it if we don't actually get a new Jak game for PS5. So, it's a pretty safe bet. that if you want to see a Jack game looking next gen and still resembling Jack, go to that team right there, because they're doing a really stellar job.
Looks like we've got. I'm checking it right here, and it looks like we've just got 3 people left in the chat at the moment.
3 people left. Okay, so 5 people.
Oh, really? Hold on. Still says 3. Can you?
It just updated itself. It's to 5 now, apparently. So I guess we'll keep this going a little bit longer. Probably maybe another half hour or so. We could round up some things to talk about.
Matt, you're the one who's got the master control over the chat here. So I'm going to send the link to the channel to you so that you can put the link to it in the chat here.
Sure thing.
To the Jack and Daxter PS5 channel.
Got it. I'll do it right now.
For some reason, I'm not subscribed yet. Why the hell was I not subscribed? Freaking, why is it not? There's a channel link. Come on. Frick. Okay, so I'm going to have to do it this way. Hold on. I'm going to have to actually look it up on my laptop because my phone app does not have the same options. But yeah, you could literally look it up. The channel is literally just Jack and Daxter PS5. But yeah, I'm going to fetch that link really quickly, and I'm going to send it to you in our Facebook chat. I did not hear your response. I hope that me going into a different window didn't freeze me. That would suck.
I'm still here. I can still hear you, so I think we're good.
Okay, there you are. All right, so let's see. Here's the channel right here. I'm gonna go ahead and grab this link. Dude, I just I just searched up Jack and Daxter PS5, and there was Jack and Daxter rumor video from 2 years ago at the very top of the search results, and I think that just goes to show how long these leaks have been coming out for, and how many of them have been disappointment.
It's true. I don't think there's a single year that passes by where we don't at least hear one rumor about Jack and Daxter. I think that the only reason why it stands out so much this year is because PS5 hype, and it's been pretty consistent, like on and off. We've been getting like Jack rumors popping up, by the dozens. So I took a little bit more stock into it this year than I would most of the time because of that primarily.
All right. I am about to send you the link in our Facebook chat so that you can put it in the main chat for everybody else. This is going very slowly. There. Come on, it's not showing up that I sent it, but I heard. There it is. Yeah. What's this? I've got a notification. Ah, neat. It's telling me that Born of the Blood subscribed to my channel. All right. So, yeah, there it is. Hey, we've got a new person, Rayman177578. Sorry, I think I'm near dyslexic. I don't know. And I love that profile picture. I think he was here during you and Kevin's live stream that last time, actually.
Oh, he's so that's one of my best friends actually. His name's Kyle. Kyle McClintock. He's Rayman 17578.
I think I recognize that name.
Yeah, so Kyle's the coolest, chillest, trillest dude in the world. He's been watching Dr. Nefarious 545 content since it pretty much popped up on the internet, like it first resurfaced. Like he was one of the first people to like catch on with the channel, and ever since then he's just been like we've been buddies for like years now, like going back and forth and talking about music, video games, and it's great. Like he's such a cool guy.
Is he the Monster Trumpets guy, or is that somebody else?
No, Monster Trumpets. His name's Jonathan Moulton, and Yeah, we had a little collaboration with him going on for a while too until he retired from YouTube.
No, wait, I remember where I saw Kyle McClintock. I remember where I saw it. Yeah, he's a mutual friend that I saw
Yeah,
to you.
Kyle, you might find him in like the Ratchet and Clank Professionals. He's in the Professionals group. He's in like the Jack and Daxter groups. Yeah, and he's also a close friend of mine.
I think uh, is this the guy is this who I think it is? This is who I think it is. It's okay. Yeah. Okay. I remember where I've seen you around now. Hey, you can add me if you want to.
Yeah, for sure. We're all trying to connect here. Yeah, so Kyle's a cool dude. He's been tuning into the channel for a while now. He always comes to the streams, and actually, I want to give a shout out to Kyle because he put together like a really cool Ratchet and Clank instrumental remix of I think was Quark's Hideout. It was Quark's Hideout from Up Your Arsenal, and it was just really vibey, really cool. I don't know if he still has it up or if he took it down, but I really enjoyed that remix that he made, and he's good at that. He's really into music. He's trying to become a producer, and so I encourage him to keep chasing his dream. If y'all want to subscribe to his channel, it's right there in the comment section. He's got some pretty cool content too, so peep it.
Hey.
Hey.
So, yeah. What now, my dude?
So yeah, I think we'll keep this going for another couple minutes. If you're willing to keep it up, keep talking for a little while. We have a 2-hour streak, so 2 hours and 11 minutes. Not bad at all. It's been a pretty successful stream. So next time we come on here, we will most likely have Kevin Sabo. He's a hardworking guy, but we decided to fill in for him tonight. Normally it would probably be a conversation between him and I. We have different schedules sometimes, so we'll just have to, make sure that we could both pair up together. And you too, Nick, you'll be involved too, of course.
Do you want to make this a regular thing of live streams every Sunday night?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that for sure. I think that the most people that we get for the stream tend to come on Friday, but I'd be down to do it on every Sunday.
I wasn't aware of that fact actually, so maybe this could be an anomaly, and we could plan it again for it to be Friday.
Yeah, we could give it a shot. We're still trying to find the perfect. We're still trying to find a perfect formula for doing these streams.
You were talking. I'm interrupting you. I am a.
It's okay, my friend. Come here.
Okay. No touchy, hands off. No kidding. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I'll admit I'm a little bit disappointed because I was hoping to see TGX and Jay's reviews jump into the chat, which I saw them do on you and Kevin's last live stream. I'm a fan. I was hoping to get to connect with them.
Yeah, maybe we're all gonna have a chance to collaborate at some point. I'm pretty sure they might be watching right now, or they're probably. They're busy guys that maybe they're asleep, maybe they're doing something else, editing a video, but my best to them. They are, incredible people and, great content creators who are keeping the word of, our favorite games alive, and that's the best thing that they could offer. And also just, expressing their love and admiration and sometimes disdain in the case of Secret Agent Clank and Thieves in Time.
TGX review of Secret Agent Clank is fucking legendary, man. He eviscerates the hell out of it, and it's so fun. Oh, hey, I remember this guy from the last podcast, too. I've been watching since Dr. Nefarious Golden Days as well. Good to see you and Kevin still doing well.
Hey, thank you, my friend. Thank you so very much. Yeah, I love to talk about the golden days of that channel because it was a really interesting era, and it was also part of my childhood, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it was a big part of me growing up and becoming a commentator, of realizing a lot of my skills and being able to adapt to, wanting to, I don't know, I guess strengthen them even more, because when you start doing something like this so young, you've got a long way to go, and I think I wanted to be at the point that I'm at now when I was like 12 or 13. Like, I just wanted to skip all the years of growing up and be like the commentator that I feel more comfortable and confident being right now. But it doesn't work that way. You have to, and for anyone who's in this chat and is kind of like a teenager or, in their early teens, like I advise you to not be afraid to make those mistakes and stumble and, be the worst version of yourself before you could be the best version of yourself. Don't be afraid to be that, person who's growing and maturing and becoming better at what they want to be. You have to do that in order to be successful. So please take my advice and do that, because it's going to really benefit you in the end. It took me about, a solid, like from like being 9 to like now at like 19, like it took me a solid few years to like really accumulate all the knowledge and all the skills that I was going to need to be a content creator, to be, anything that I wanted to be and adapt my skills into. So really just keep at it, like keep working on it, keep going forward and pushing. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in with me that long. And I promise that there's plenty more content to come. So yeah, it's just the beginning of a new era now. Now we're all kind of like maturing. We're all becoming more, just confident, and we want to grow with people who watch these videos and just kind of keep the inspiration fueled. So yeah, and Nico the Nacho, my boy right here, he's all about that. Like we both have droughts. We both had like moments of feeling like, oh man, like what if it doesn't really like come to fruition? But ultimately, yeah, I know, I feel you. I go through it too. Even if we both feel that, in the heat of the moment, like it's important for us to, to kind of like push ourselves onto a platform like this and be like, all right, well, what's the worst that could happen? Like maybe it doesn't amount to the greatest heights of all time that we want it to be, but it also gives us a purpose. It gives us something to do. It gives us a reason to be who we are. And that's the most important thing above all. And as soon as we have Kevin on here, he'll preach the same thing to you guys too, that I'm telling you guys, so yeah, man, the best days are still to come. I could guarantee it. Like we got the golden days, and I'm so glad that people remember Dr. Nefarious 545 and all the videos that we put together on it. I love to tell stories about it.
I was a fan of Dr. Nefarious 545 before you and I were even friends. Like I was a fan of the channel before I met you.
Yeah. Dr. Nefarious 545 for me was like the dream of the kid who played those games growing up, and then it was like me becoming a teenager and wanting to be the content creators that I looked up to and admired who talked about those games. So I cite, Gexup as an inspiration, who's not around anymore, but he was a pretty big leading authority on like all the underrated classics that I like grew up on.
You remember
introduced me to.
You remember Gexup's Jack's video? You remember that?
Jack 4 must be made?
Yeah. That's a classic.
What's up, Naughty Dog? How you doing? Remember me? The guy who loved all your games? Right? Like, there's just something so like as a kid, I vibed with Gexup so much because I just loved his brash tone. Like I loved how brash and just bold he was. He would come out and just say it if he wanted to. So he was a very entertaining content creator. It's a shame that he kind of like fell out of it and didn't want to associate with that part of his life anymore. But I wish him well.
That is a mantle that I would like to take up for myself. The only issue is the fact that I would be competing with Kevin for being the one with the most chaotic energy.
Hey, you guys can be, two sides of the same coin. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that, you have your own brand of chaotic energy. He has his own brand of it. It's pretty great. And then there's me who's like, come on, guys, we all get along. And you're like, oh. Yeah, but I like being a mediator when I can be. I'm not afraid to, kind of like speak what needs to be said sometimes, but I also try to just kind of like be the little like in between, like the neutral, between the positive and the negative and the yin and the yang and whatever, but I represent both sides too. So I'm like just as human as you guys. But yeah, at least Old Classic Gamer archived those old videos. Yeah, all of Gexup's videos are still up. They're just they're in archives.
Which
I go back to them sometimes and watch them.
I've got some binging to do tonight, actually. There was somebody who was commenting earlier in the chat who I looked at his channel because I was curious. Let me see if I can find him. IKG Productions. Out of curiosity, I clicked on his channel to see what he was doing, and he's got some videos on Sly Cooper that I think I'm going to be binging tonight because they look interesting.
Oh, yeah? That sounds cool. I got to check him out too then. I don't know if I've heard of that channel name. So, I mean, I'm always open to a new content creator. I discover them like you discover flies in your bedroom. Like they're hovering above and I'm like, I got to catch it. Yeah. So for me, I have so many stories that I could tell about Dr. Nefarious 545. Like it's really fun to talk about because I feel like it gives a lot of perspective on the life of a kid in like the early 21st century. Cause I had such a typical like nerdy kids world that I created. Like it was just me, Kevin, for the most part, and this big universe of our favorite games that we decided to say, let's just like project this into the internet and see how it goes, like see if people like take to it. And of course, like the inspirations I had, like Gexup and Zookstar 1000, who aren't around anymore, sadly, but they were great guys. I mean, they're still alive. I'm saying they're not around anymore. Like they're not dead and gone. Like they're not dust in the wind. Their legacy still stands, but they're not currently active on YouTube anymore, sadly. And yeah, so all of that bled into the videos that I would make as a kid. Like, and the most impressive thing for me was coming across like a much older figure. Like I really wanted to try my hardest to appear that I wasn't a kid, that I wasn't just, I would like I would either deepen my voice, like try it myself, or I would put it through an editor and like lower it like 2 notches down so I wouldn't sound like a Little did I know that my voice was actually pretty deep as a kid. Like I didn't need to deepen my voice, and it's only just gotten deeper over the years because I talk a lot. But
I think you were a 20-year-old dude.
Yeah. A lot of people probably did because it's the way I carried myself, like even though I was still like a kid, like I did my best to emulate older figures, like the YouTubers I looked up to. And also I looked mature because I was like, I like 5'10" and above. Like I shot up to being like a tall kid very fast. And that's, automatically going to make your face and your voice deeper because, you have more testosterone than other kids your age. But so that was also a reason too. Other than that, I wanted to project myself with more like adult attitudes, even though I was a kid. So when you're a kid, like you think you're being adult, but you're really just kind of like clowning yourself in the process of it. So,
dude, yeah, I'm myself each and every day when I try to act like I know shit.
I know. No, me too. Like I'm still not fully like, oh, yes, sir. Like I still goof up and I still like, make silly little like decisions that I'm like, would a professional do this? I don't know. But that's the good part. Like you could relate to that. Like trying to be something that's so like Mr. Like trying to do that all the time is an act, and it's not natural. It's not real. Like you've got to carry your imagination and your, like true inner energy, whatever it may be, chaotic energy, passionate energy. You've got to carry it with you wherever you go. So you can't just let that kind of like fall out of you and try to put on this act to be, someone that looks more like a well-represented person of society. Like, who cares? Like, world's going crazy anyway these days. Just be who you are. Let's be honest. Like, just be yourself. Like, who cares what anyone thinks? Be yourself, and you'll be loved by the people who are really like open-hearted, and want to love someone that's like you, like the person that you are. So don't worry about it. Anyway.
Canceled.
Or you'll get canceled. But the thing is, cancel culture, I think cancel culture is like a one and done. Like a lot of people who like are on the cancel culture list, like Angry Joe almost got canceled, but no one believed that story about him. The reason that
I don't think I'm privy to this information. What the hell happened with him?
Oh, right. So yeah, Angry Joe had a bit of an altercation with a female.
Oh.
It didn't go the way that, of course, it was made out to have gone, but Joe had to defend his name and, stand up for himself in the situation. And of course, the rumor kind of like spread like wildfire through Twitter, as it always does, because it can never be something that's just handled personally, even though it's a personal issue that someone runs to the internet, cries wolf, and says, "Oh my gosh, this happened to me. Burn his house down. Burn him at the stake." Like this whole us not being able to understand each other as people and actually put someone through due process without just being like, "Oh man, Angry Joe, wow, what a terrible guy. I really thought that he was like an upstanding dude." Like, come on, like you can't just kind of take what one person says and think that it's the gospel. That's I expect people to be a little bit smarter and more.
That's the facts of the situation and determine what exactly happened and levy the guilt if it's found that the person actually did it. But
right.
There's
suffice it to say, Joe's off the hook now. It was all a bunch of garbage. And yeah, it was a bunch of garbage. I don't want to say it usually is, but it gets blown way out of proportion due to the no limits of the internet. There's no limits to something getting around and becoming like a force of its own destruction.
Upper Echelon Gamers has plenty of videos on the subject. Really smart dude. I'd suggest you look him up. He's got some fantastic social commentaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. The thing is, you can't just like accuse someone of doing something that you really can't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. So it's not something that should be handled and taken to Twitter either. I think that that's very irresponsible, and it gaslights people. And that's the last thing you want to do, is just, even if someone did do an action that's negative or harmful, gaslighting them on Twitter is not going to solve that issue. Like, if you want to send a horde of angry people after them, that's not going to resolve anything or give you the necessary answers that you're looking for, or the resolution that you want. So yeah. Carved the Warped, good night, my friend. Thank you for tuning in. We're probably going to cut this stream in about 10 minutes. So it's been fun. Thanks for watching with us. And, we'll be doing this more often. So have a good night, my friend.
Hell yeah. I think I know what I'm going to do after this, because I've got $2 in my pocket. I'm going to walk to the 7-Eleven in the dark of night and get a pint of ice cream.
I got some ice cream too, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm thinking. I'm like, cheat night? I think so. The muscles can wait. I gotta binge. I'm feeling good. Man, gotta have some mint chocolate chip ice cream that I got in the freezer.
there's you and Kev who are actually getting ripped and shit, and there's just me, Flex, and my thing goes like one of those cards.
No, I'm not ripped yet. I'm still a work in progress. Kevin's definitely getting ripped. I'm skinny ripped. I'm like the workouts that I did when I was like 16 and 17 haven't wore off yet. So I still got some arms, but I'm not like consistently working out yet and getting off my butt. I need to. I'm going to start doing that more often because I got
Dude, same. I'm a pudgy boy. It sucks because I didn't used to be, but I'm a pudgy boy now, and I don't like it.
It's okay. I started getting a little bit of pudge too. If I don't work out or do anything physical, then it's definitely going to show on me. I'll be like, oh man, like I got a fast metabolism, but I'll still feel like completely out of shape. And like, I'm like, ugh. Like, so yeah.
I used to have metabolism. It's slowed down because I'm a lazy son of a bitch.
Well, this is why we're all dedicated to self-improvement here. So it looks like we've only got one viewer left, so we're probably going to cut this in like 5 minutes, but it's been really fun. So the last person who's watching, I'm pretty sure it's probably my best friend, Kyle, one of my best friends, Kyle.
I was about to say, am I going to have
It's got to be Kyle. I'm pretty sure it's Kyle. If you're still here, say something in the chat because I know one person is left in this chat room. But yeah, everyone got tired, and we've been going for like an hour and a half, 2 hours and a half now. So yeah, that's about the normal time that we tend to cut it. I don't know how long Kevin usually goes for, but yeah.
Hella. All right. Cool. Oh wait, we're still waiting for the person to respond.
We are.
Oh, no, wait a second. No, that's wait. Oh no, never mind. That's not. I was about to say that might actually be me because I came into because I looked to see how the live stream looked from my end, but I was literally just checking to see if I was still in that chat room, but no, I am no longer in it, so I don't think that's me. So I don't know who it is because whoever it is isn't sounding off, but whatever.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you still being here to watch.
It's Danger Boy. Danger Boy's
okay. Danger Boy is the real OG. He's the guy who's stuck around with us for like 2.5 hours. Well, thank you, my friends. We're probably gonna wrap it up right now because everyone seems to have either gone to bed or wants to binge some ice cream. So it's been really fun. Thanks for tuning in with me. Thank you, Nick, for being my partner in crime tonight. It's been really fun. Like the discussions have went really well. It was really smooth. So yeah, I'm gonna cut it off now. But Danger Boy, I'll see you next time. Hopefully we'll be with Kevin next time.
Hopefully I'll get to do a discussion with Kevin.
All the three of us, so that it'll be like really interesting. The three of us talking together. And yeah, it's been fun. Peace out, everyone.
Hell yeah. See ya.